Hey guys, Fourfinger here, and just before we jump into a quick showcase, keep in mind that this build is far from optimized. I've literally just put together gear that I had in my stash tab, so you definitely don't need stuff like Headhunter. Obviously I'll make a complete guide tomorrow with normal gear. I just wanted to test the Impale damage from Bonestorm, and that's pretty much it. The whole idea was just to use Bonestorms and then have Shockwave Totems keep proccing the Impales that the Bonestorm leaves. But more on that later. For now, just check the showcase, but keep in mind, like I said, it's gonna be at least 2 times stronger. So as you can see, the damage and the clear of this build can be improved quite a bit, so I'll try to optimize it as much as I can today and make a complete build guide tomorrow that you guys can copy. But before that, let me just explain how Bonestorm works. Now, Bonestorm got reworked in this patch. It used to leave a big flat physical damage debuff, which was really crazy on higher levels, which is probably why they've decided to change it in the first place. And instead, they've added the new mechanic called Impale that we had in PoE 1, but it works differently now. And they also added 200% more Impale magnitude. So how does the Impale work? Well, it basically takes 30% of pre-mitigation physical hit damage and stores it on a target. And then once you hit with some attack, it's going to consume it and apply the damage, obviously comparing it to the defenses. But since we already remove all of the armor with the cut to the bone, all that you need to know is with 200% more Impale magnitude, this becomes 90% store damage. So if you consume every single one, instead of doing regular 100% of Bonestorm damage, you would be doing 190%, which is almost doubling your damage if you consume all of them. That's pretty much the core of the build. Just try to consume as many Impales as you can, and more you do it, more damage you get. You can also run stuff like Brutality, because like I said, we scale Impale only by physical damage, so doing elemental and chaos damage won't help. It does have a downside of not being able to use stuff like Mana Tempest and, you know, some extra damage as, but overall you can still push this quite far, I guess, especially if you can have free totems. I might also put Overabundance into Shockwave Totems to consume more of them, but for now, like I said, I was just testing stuff out, and tomorrow you'll have a complete guide. So let's just jump into abilities and how this all blends together. So when it comes to the rest of our support gems, I am running Arcane Tempo between Bone Cage and Bonestorm. It does make mapping feel a little bit smoother, but I think it's better just to put any other damaging support in Bone Cage instead, so you don't have to worry about switching all the time. When it comes to the other stuff, like I said, Brutality is really good because we only want to do physical damage to scale the Impale, nothing crazy there. 30% more maximum physical hit damage, 50% more damage combined with the Deepest Tower unique, and then Inspiration is definitely going to be a must on level 34, 35 because mana will become an issue. Bone Cage, our mapping ability, we use Astral Projection as I said before, because then you can use it wherever your cursor is, instead of just around your character, so obviously really good. We have Conk Effect for more damage and less area of effect. We don't really care about AoE because most of our clear comes from the Trample Toe anyway, so even if we kill just one minion, it's going to spread and kill everything else around it, so that's fine. And then we run Ambush and Super Critical, because without Super Critical I have 66% crit. If I put this in, it's 53%, and it gives us 100% increased critical damage bonus. But whenever we hit an enemy that's full life, this is going to double and become 100%, so that's fine. Just more damage from the Super Crit. We have Orb of Storms. This is primarily used just for the focus on the offhand that we pretty much do for critical weakness, and this enables us to have 100% crit chance on bosses. Outside of that, we are running Font of Blood, Font of Mana, Overabundance, Persistence, and Pinpoint. We just, like I said, every time the ability crits, it applies critical weakness, so we don't care about less critical damage bonus, this is just here to buff the crit, that's all. And I am planning to probably remove the Overabundance and Persistence and put them on the Shockwave Totem instead, because then I can use an extra one, and it's going to be more damage overall. I would just have to recast them more often, that's the only downside. But overall, I think this is fine. We have Shockwave Totem with the Martial Tempo and Jagged Ground. This pretty much means every time it attacks, not only will it remove one Impale, it will remove an extra one because of the Jagged Ground. So this is really nice to keep consuming those Impales. And then finally we have Ancestral Urgency, just so you can put it down faster. You don't really care about the level of the totem because, like I said, it's just there to consume the Impale and that's it, nothing else. Outside of that, we have Cast on Crit for bossing to keep applying power charges with the Sniper Mark and the the Resonance. So every time we would get Frenzy charges, which we do from the Sniper, we get power instead, and that just buffs us on the Bonestorm and applies the Explosion as well. So that's really cool. Outside of that, when it comes to bosses, I remove my Ghost Dance and activate my Quadrilla. This just enables us to have like 30% shock, which is obviously really nice, 30% more damage, so useful to have, while for mapping you don't really need it, you just use Ghost Dance instead. Now, what I wanted to add to this build is, like I said, I wanted to add an extra totem on the tree, maybe one more from the Overabundance. I'm going to make a separate cast on crit for mapping, and then probably with levels of the Bonestorm both mapping and clear should be feeling really nice. But with that being said, let's just jump into the gear next. So when it comes to gear, as I said before, it can be improved quite a bit because most of the items I just picked up out of my stash tab. Like, we're not going to be running Headhunter, I'm just going to get Resistances and Life Belt. Those gloves are actually okay, especially because we can't use Wind Dancer, so having more evasions are fine. Trample Toe, probably going to keep those as well. The ring I'm going to change for more mana and mana regen because we'll need it on higher levels. This amulet will also have to become +3 to the spells instead, because projectile skills doesn't scale Bone Cage for mapping. I don't think it's necessary, but why not? It helps. Then we have Focus and Wand that can both give a lot more increases, like this is only like 80% increased damage from those two, it can be way higher. And this is a decent chest. This is the one I used before, I think on my Amazon or something, so really decent chest. And finally the Deepest Tower is really cheap, it's like still I think around 1 divine, even with good rolls. So obviously this one gives us crazy amount of increased damage on the tree from both this node and those here, so yeah, nothing crazy gear wise. When it comes to jewels, I am running the Watchtowers, which is giving me an extra totem, so it consumes it consumes those like Impales faster. I'm gonna try to get this one as well, either on the Anoint or on the the Megalomaniac as well. We'll see how that works out. We do have one normal jewel, which is probably going to be replaced with +3. This just gives us a lot of crit damage bonus and max CS. And presence area of effect also isn't terrible for the Deepest Tower. And then finally the last one is Unwavering Stance, like we said before, just to allocate those 3 nodes. So that's pretty much it when it comes to gear. I'll make it a little bit more in depth tomorrow once I make a complete guide. So when it comes to the skill tree and the Ascendancy choice, I did decide to go with Deadeye because we get 20% more damage, we get additional projectile, which means Bonestorm spawns 2 instead of 1 at a time. We also have Tailwind and Wind Ward. If something does hit us, we have less damage taken, and then also Tailwind is really great for movement speed, skill speed, and evasion. All of those are really good for this build. With that being said, we also have a lot of movement speed on the tree, and since we are running Trample Toes, which only have 15% on them, I also got a corruption for 5% more, increased. So we have 20% from the boots, and we have decent amount from the tree. It doesn't feel slow at all, especially once you have the Tailwind stacks, moves pretty quickly, so that's nice. And like I said, this is really great to enable that huge clear on the maps with the chain reaction, so really nice. For the rest of the tree, it's nothing crazy. Like I said, all of the low life nodes for the increased damage. We have a little bit more increased damage here for the movement and increased damage. And then the rest of it is just evasion, energy shield, and crit. Nothing too crazy. Only difference is we have to pick those two like mana cost nodes. Those are really nice for the build. Like I said, especially later on, they're gonna be a must. So that's it for the skill tree and the Ascension. I don't think there's anything else to talk about right now. Like I said, tomorrow, once I'm done optimizing it, I'll try to go a little bit more in depth and cover everything. So yeah, thank you guys for watching. If you have any questions, as always, hop on Discord. I'll be happy to help, and I'll see you guys in the next one.